ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive. Winner of the 2024 West Virginia Broadcasters Association Excellence in Broadcasting Award for Best Talk Show.
Well, it's Thursday, July 18th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our text line this hour is going to be 304-396-TALK. We do that again at 304-396-8255. Open text lines the entire show, and we're going to have fun with you today because, of course, the Colecats won last night. Tommy Gregg and his squad got the win 12-2 over the Elizabethton River Riders. Colecats were all over the place. I loved it. A lot of offense last night. They get the victory. You believe it or not, the Colecats have won 6 of their last 8 games. They're still looking very, very much up at the top spot. There's a ways to go, but they're doing their part. 6 out of the last 8. So it's been a good ride this last few weeks or so, and they've been getting better. Last night, Tommy Gregg, after the game, talked about winning. They won 12-2. Believe it or not, at home, 12-2. Tommy Gregg talked about it.
Yeah, so we got off to a good start, up 3, and then they came back and got it 3-2. Felt a little uncomfortable. Josh Polina didn't have his best stuff tonight, and he admitted it. He got through 4. We were going to try to send him back out for the 5th, maybe to get the win, but he just didn't feel right when he went back out there. But he competed, got outs when he needed to, so he kept it close for us, and then we just took off. So whatever I said last night, it was just reverse psychology about not hitting here. So, yeah, we swung the bats, we took walks, we had really good at-bats, we hit men in scoring position finally. Played good defense, and then Kenny Jackson came in and kind of shut him down. And, yeah, we finished up with a good win. We're getting ready to go on a big road trip.
That's a heck of a win, 12-2. You got a lot of the things you wanted out of this team. And that was one thing that Tommy talked about last night, just the team finding consistency. It needed that the night before. It found its consistency.
Yeah, hey, baseball, like I've said before, it's an adventure every game. It's something different. You can be really bad the day before and really good the next day. Just it's about the energy. It's about the focus and concentration. It's about catching some good breaks once in a while. But I think by us having good at-bats, taking some walks, putting the pressure on the defense and the pitcher, that just gives an offense more confidence. When a guy's having a good at-bat, gets a hit or gets a walk, the next guy coming up feels good about going into the box. Just saw better energy and focus tonight.
And finally, we're looking ahead to Danville, the Colecats on the road. Tommy gives us a little bit of a preview of what we can expect as that road series begins tonight.
Well, I think they're top 3 in the league in hitting. They're top 3 in the league in pitching. They're playing them at their place. Long bus ride. 6, pretty much going to be 6 hours when we stop and eat lunch. So hopefully the adrenaline's going for the game tomorrow night. We'll see what we got. We got Kenyon Collins on the mound, who's usually young, so the bus ride shouldn't affect him too much. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. I mean, it's going to be a tough road trip, but we're going to battle every game.
Don't forget, homestand next week. Final homestand. We've got it for you on the radio right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So there are several Colecat players that have been named to the All-Star game, and that's coming up. That's coming up next week. And to have multiple players is good. You've got 5 players, including Josh McDevitt. David Stitch is going to be there. Joe Gomez is going to be there. Michael Rodriguez is going to be there. Logan Petit's going to be there. So several players making it to the All-Star game. And, of course, again, this is a short season. You get 2 months, and then you're done as we get back into the swing of things on the actual college side. And don't forget, that's where a lot of these kids are coming from, coming straight from college to this, and then they'll be heading back to their respective universities. So a pretty good outing last night and a pretty good showing these last few games for the Colecats. Now, they've still got some work to do because they're 16-21. Burlington's 21-16. All of a sudden, that doesn't look like it's insurmountable. Danville, and keep this in mind, Danville, if the Colecats can get some wins against Danville, that's going to be even better. Burlington's got to lose some, and they're going to have to try to stay consistent. But 16-21 Right now, Burlington 21-16. The top two teams in the East, top two teams in the West, of course, going to the postseason. So the Colecats, not the worst team in the league by any stretch of the imagination. In the West, they're better than three teams in the West record-wise right now. And Pulaski's only ahead of them by one game. They're 17-18 in the win column. Bluefield's 19-18 right now. And then Burlington, as I mentioned, 21-16. And then Danville, the opponent tonight, 24-12. So they've got a few more shots at maybe getting close. If you can get into that second spot, I'll take it. Get the spot that gets you into the postseason. That's all you care about, and then see what happens. And I believe the East will host the championship this year. I think that's my impression. It's going to be the East. So if they finish second, say they have to take on Danville and they could beat Danville, I think the East opponent, the East team would host the West opponent. That's what it looks like. Still, lots of fun baseball left, and we've been enjoying it all season long right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So we're going to get your text in this hour. Let me open that up for you, 304-396-TALK. Again, 304-396-8255, because we're going to have some fun today, or at least I hope so. Now, we'll talk about it in a minute. The Bengals Hall of Fame. Two more names have been inducted into the Bengals Hall of Fame. It's really the Ring of Honor. Hall of Fame, Ring of Honor. And so one of those individuals has I don't want to say a controversial relationship with the Cincinnati Bengals, but it seems like everything's going a little bit better. Corey Dillon inducted now, or will be. He's going to be in the 2024 Ring of Honor. And also Tim Krumrie. What a heck of a class. And so Corey was having some issues about how the selection process even took place. And I think someone finally got to him and said, look, Corey, you're just going to have to be a little patient here. Because you're not putting Corey Dillon in before Kenny Anderson. Or Boomer Esiason, for that matter. You're not going to do that, or Anthony Munoz. There are some guys that have got to go in first. Absolutely have got to go in first. And so, Corey's in. He's in. He's the franchise's all-time leader in rushing attempts, rushing yards, and 100-yard rushing games. Got to go to the Pro Bowl in 3 consecutive years. He has the top 3 single-game rushing performances in team history. I mean, he's part of Cincinnati Bengals history. And hopefully his on-again, off-again relationship with the fans is a little bit better now, because the fans loved him, appreciated him. He left because he wanted to compete for a Super Bowl, get to the Super Bowl. He wanted to play for something meaningful like a Super Bowl. And so that opportunity was made available, and he took advantage of it. Now, he's going in with one of the all-time greats in Cincinnati Bengals history, and that's Tim Krumrie. Played from 83 to 94. Played 188 regular season games. That's the most by a Bengals lineman. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler, 87-88, and first-team All-Pro in 1988. And, of course, without him, I don't know if the Bengals get to the Super Bowl. Sure would have loved to have had him in that Super Bowl game for the entirety of it. Would have maybe made the difference. Who knows? But he's going in. Corey Dillon's going in. And so the Ring of Honor for the Bengals continues. And the halftime ceremony will be during the Monday Night Football game versus the Washington Commanders on September 23rd. So if you're looking to go to that game, that's going to be a special night, because Corey and Tim Krumrie, two of the best to do it for the Cincinnati Bengals. So that brings me back to something we always go to. We're bringing it back again. And we're going to have some fun with it today, because not only I want to talk about 2 different things I want to talk about. First of all, I want to talk about and again, it needs to happen sooner than later, the Marshall Football Ring of Honor. The Marshall Ring of Honor needs to happen. For Marshall football, it needed to happen yesterday. And why we haven't got to that point yet, I don't know. But it needs to happen. You don't retire numbers or anything like that, but you put people in a ring of honor. It's probably the best thing you could possibly do. And you don't put everybody in. This is different than the Marshall Hall of Fame. I think this is different. The Ring of Honor is completely different. And I think you can make an argument that if you're in the Marshall Hall of Fame, you should be on the short list for the Ring of Honor. You can be in both. I don't think necessarily you have to be in the Marshall Hall of Fame to be the Ring of Honor. They don't have to agree all the time. I think these are two different things. And maybe you let the fans vote on this. Maybe you let the season ticket holders vote on this. That could be a perk. Hey, as a season ticket holder, you get also the opportunity to nominate and then vote on who can get into the Ring of Honor, if you want to do it that way. Because I think the Hall of Fame is one thing. It's got a committee, and they really evaluate who deserves to be in here. And it's not going to be just all football players, and that's the thing about that. Now, the Ring of Honor, on the other hand, it's all for football. And I think you can have some oversight to that, but maybe you open this up and you let season ticket holders. Those are the ones that spend the money to buy the season tickets. You give them that as a perk, maybe. Maybe they have some sway. They have a percentage of the vote. Give them the opportunity for the nominating process. I don't want to just arbitrarily say, hey, look, here's who you get to vote on. Vote. Because Ring of Honor, I think, should be different than a Marshall Hall of Fame. Completely different. You can be in one and not the other. I would think, though, that you would qualify for both. You would have to have the qualifications to be in the Hall of Fame. If you're in the Ring of Honor, your qualifications should be good enough to get you into the Marshall Hall of Fame. And so I've got a list. It's not complete. It's not comprehensive. It's just a list to get started as far as who should be in the Hall of Fame. And then I got a different list as well. Unbeknownst to our producer, Ben Anderson, today. He's sitting there going, these are none of the notes I prepared for you, Paul. No, Ben, I wanted to surprise you. So who needs to be in the Marshall Ring of Honor? 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. You can also find me on X. That is at Paul Swann. Texter, no, actually, someone at X said, hey, Paul, Byron and Cato should be top two. And I'm asking the question for my other list. Who are the top Marshall athletes of the 21st century? ESPN's got its list out of the top professional athletes of the 21st century. Who are the top Marshall athletes of the 21st century? And I've already got Byron Leftwich. I've got Rakeem Cato. I've got Vinnie Curry, Albert McClellan. I've got Devin Johnson. A lot of push on Devin already. It's like one of the greatest running backs Marshall's ever had is what I'm being told. How do you think? But I've got a list of who needs to be in the Marshall Ring of Honor. Also, who needs to be considered the top athlete of the 21st century. And, of course, my Ring of Honor is going to be similar to my top athletes of the 21st century. The Ring of Honor is going to be a little bit more comprehensive because it's going to go back a few more decades. But if you're looking at my top athlete of the 21st century for Marshall football, top athlete, who's it going to be? Who's it got to be? 21st century. It's a good question. We'll talk about it when we continue, and we'll get your text in. Who do you think should be one of the athletes that make the list of the greatest 100 the 21st century Marshall athletics, and then who should be in the Ring of Honor? And since this is the 21st century, Randy Moss does not get on the 21st century list. Sorry, I'm Ric Flairing him. I'm going to Ric Flair him and not include him because he didn't compete at Marshall in the 21st century. Unbeknownst to Ric Flair, the list of the greatest professional athletes of the 21st century meant you competed in the 21st century. Have you seen this on social media? Ric Flair, the greatest of all time, the GOAT of wrestling mad that he didn't get included in the greatest athletes of the 21st century. Rick, I'm sorry. 20th century, we got an argument here. You can be the GOAT on that list. 21st century, this is going to be divisive because, we're what? Maybe a quarter, pretty much almost a quarter through the century now? We got ways to go. This list is going to change by the time. When Paul Swann in, 90 years does this list again, it's going to be different. So text lines 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Greatest athletes of the 21st century for the Thundering Herd. Randy Moss is not that athlete, but if it was the 20th century, he probably would get in. So who should get into this? I'll give you a hint. He's on my Ring of Honor. I'll give you that hint. We'll talk about it when we continue. I think we'll go with the Ring of Honor first, and then we'll kick around the top athletes of the 21st century for Marshall Athletics. We'll do that when we continue, and with your input at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 at AM 930.
Did you know September 11th is a National Day of Service? We invite you to be kind with Volunteer West Virginia, because every mountaineer has the power to make a difference. Join in our statewide day of service, whether it's lending a hand or spreading kindness. In West Virginia, every mountaineer is a volunteer. Visit volunteer.wv.gov to find a volunteer opportunity near you. Brought to you by Volunteer West Virginia, the West Virginia Broadcasters Association, and this station.
At Progressive, we know money can't buy happiness. But money did buy your boat, where you find peace fishing, unlike at home with 3 teenage daughters. Because fish never argue about who stole whose crop top, or get mad the other fish used up all the hot water. No, they just swim around, never embarrassed to be seen with you in public. So save money by bundling your boat or RV insurance with home or auto from Progressive. And buy more happiness, or something close to it. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Okay, forest animals. Today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude,
How's the temperature?
it's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night. Perfect. I love my job. Oak Tree?
Sup?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple 100 years.
I know. I love it. Turtle. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think you would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay. Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Winner of the 2024 West Virginia Broadcasters Association Excellence in Broadcasting Award for Best Talk Show.
Welcome back to the Thursday edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our producer who always cuts my guitar solo out is Ben Anderson. Our text line this hour is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. So with the Ring of Honor inductees being announced today for the Cincinnati Bengals, it got me to start thinking, hey, let's pull out the notes from last year and let's get this going again. Marshall football needs a Ring of Honor. We need a Ring of Honor. This will be different from the Marshall Hall of Fame. I think you can have both. The Marshall Hall of Fame for the athletes serves all of the athletes. You can have athletes that are in the Ring of Honor that are in the Marshall Hall of Fame. That's fine. Or you can maybe have a couple of athletes that are in the Ring of Honor that don't necessarily get into the Hall of Fame right away. It's not a one or other. You can be in both. You can be in one or you can be in the other. And, of course, also since ESPN's been playing us with its athletes, top 100 athletes, professional athletes of the 21st century, who are the top 100 athletes of the 21st century for Marshall Athletics? And that's going to be a more interesting list. That's probably going to be a very divisive list. it's going to be a list that doesn't have Randy Moss or Chad Pennington on it. Now, you could argue that their influence went well into the early part of the 2000s, but I want to narrow it down to you played at Marshall University in the 21st century. That's what I want to narrow that list down to. So Byron would make the list of 100 greatest athletes of the 21st century from Marshall University. I think Hassan Whiteside probably would be a shoe-in there. Vinnie Curry would be a shoe-in there. You could say Rakeem Cato. You could say that. I would think so. You could say Levi Brown maybe. You could throw his name out there. Maybe Ali Harrell. We got to think of some of the other sports as well. And so that's where you can help fill in the blanks. Who's going to be on this list? I mean, like Ryan Juracek, is he going to be on this list? Probably. Would a guy like DeAndre Kane be on this list? Absolutely. 100. Would John Elmore be on this list? And I don't want to have recent bias here. Probably. Tavion Kinsey. And again, you will have your recency bias. Tavion Kinsey probably on this list. Odd Elmore. I mean, he's a TBT legend. He would be in the greatest of all time in the TBT. I don't know if we put him on the Marshall list. But the TBT list, he's a legend. So that's sort of the criteria with the list that we want to put together. The greatest 100 Marshall athletes of the 21st century. So this is a list without Chad Pennington and Randy Moss. So you got to actually work on this one. But here we are looking for the Ring of Honor. That's probably my first priority. I want to get the Ring of Honor started at Marshall. It needs to happen for football. And this is a list that you can say Randy Moss is on. Randy Moss is on this list. Now, I have some rules I established for the Ring of Honor. If I was overseeing this, I have some rules here. I would have an initial class, maybe, or I'd have a few initial inductees every year, and then I would open it up more, give the season ticket holders the opportunity to submit nominations. But I would look at the College Football Hall of Fame membership first. And that means in the Marshall Ring of Honor, you would have, obviously, and I don't mean just putting your number on the side of the press box. I mean, we change this, we rebrand this. This is the Marshall Football Ring of Honor. And that means Frank Gunnar Gasky is on the Ring of Honor. He's a Cleveland Brown, I know, in his pro career. And I'm not looking for what you did in your pro career. I'm looking at what you did at Marshall University. So I definitely look at the College Football Hall of Fame membership and I go, okay, you have to automatically put in Frank Gunnar Gasky. He's in. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's in the Ring of Honor. He goes in. Played at Marshall from 1940 to 42. He was inducted in the College Hall of Fame in the 80s. Had a outstanding professional career. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame. He gets on Marshall's Ring of Honor. There's no argument. You don't. If you get in the College Football Hall of Fame, you eventually get inducted into the Ring of Honor. There's just you can't get out of that. So, who else gets on this list? Jackie Hunt. Jackie Hunt's on this list. Why? Because, again, he played at Marshall, 38 to 41, I believe, and heck of a rusher, set records during his time at Marshall, College Football Hall of Fame. You get into the Ring of Honor. Automatic. There's no argument. And then there's Troy Brown. Troy Brown, one of the greatest to do it at the wide receiver position. He was a threat as a return specialist. And he's in because he's a College Football Hall of Famer. He gets in, automatic. We don't argue it. Michael Payton, he gets in. And here are my rules also. before Chad Pennington can go in the Ring of Honor, Michael Payton has to be on that Ring of Honor first. Before Byron Leftwich gets the nod to go into the Ring of Honor, Michael Payton goes in. Walter Payton Award winner led Marshall to its first football national championship, 1992 Division I AA championship. He's on the list. He gets in. So before Chad gets in, before Byron gets in, Michael Payton's on the Ring of Honor. No arguments. Mike Barber, Hall of Famer, wide receiver. I don't think we need to really talk about his career. He was just that good. Lots of records set, All-American status, College Football Hall of Famer. Mike Barber gets into this Ring of Honor. No questions asked. We've already rubber stamped it. So if Paul Swann was running this today, Mike Barber's in Ring of Honor. Now, I think you also have to give credence to those who came before, and you got Harry Cy Young. He predates almost all of us, but since he is, again, College Football Hall of Fame member, he gets in automatically. This isn't about who you like recently. This is all-time greats, and I think the criteria, I think it actually should be tougher to get into the Ring of Honor than it is the Marshall Hall of Fame, and that's pretty tough to begin with. So I think this should be a lot tougher. This isn't one of those where, hey, if we get you in, hey, what kind of donation can we expect from you? You scratch our back, we'll scratch yours. I don't know. I don't want any of this. I want this totally to be, one, merit-based. Those who are in the College Football Hall of Fame automatically are members of this. And then I want the fans to eventually take control of this, submit the nominations. I want them to have some say in this as well. But I still want some high standards here. I just don't want to put anybody on this thing. It's not a Ring of Honor if anybody can get on it. It should be difficult. So those are the players I would pretty much rubber stamp on this. I don't think I've forgotten anyone. And then, of course, as far as coaches are concerned, you're all going to say, well, Bobby Pruitt's a shoo-in for this. Yes, Bobby Pruitt is a shoo-in for this, but before Bobby Pruitt gets on this list, Jim Donnan gets in to the Ring of Honor. All of the Hall of Famers get in first. That should be the standard. And this is going to be the initial class. So once we get the initial class started, and that's, again, Frank Gunnar Gasky, Michael Payton, Troy Brown, Mike Barber, Jackie Hunt, Harry Cy Young, Jim Donnan, he gets in. Then we can start looking at other people. Texter writes in and says, Paul, Ring of Honor for Chris Parker. 5,928 yards. Nobody else close. So Chris Parker, give the ball to Chris and watch him go, as Sonny Randall would say, for those of you who grew up with the coach, then broadcaster for the Thundering Herd. Chris Parker's in. So he's on this list of a Ring of Honor. Who else should be on it? I'll open it up to you. I've got some ideas, but I'll open it up to you. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. And then we'll start working on our greatest Marshall athletes of the 21st century. We'll talk about that when we continue. And your text here on The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Giovanni's has great Italian dishes. Spaghetti with meat sauce, lasagna, ravioli, manicotti, all dinners served with hot garlic bread or Italian rolls. Giovanni's, the Italian place to be.
Save big money on everything you need when you shop at Menards. Menards is your destination for pet food and supplies. Stock up on Greenie's Dental Dog Treats. They have a unique texture to fight plaque and tartar and are vet recommended. Save big today on Greenie's Dental Dog Treats at Menards. America's #1 home improvement retailer for customer satisfaction, according to J.D. Power. For J.D. Power 2024 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
Save big money at Menards.
Let the good times roll. Downtown Huntington's premier weekly music event is back. It's Mount West 9th Street Live, presented by New Trail, Garage Beer, Big Truck, The Beast, La Marca Prosecco, and Matua's Sauvignon Blanc. This Friday, it's Xfinity High-Speed Internet Night with Souls of the Wounded. Music starts at 7 on the Marshall OBGYN stage. The Little Caesars Kids Zone is back, and Gomart Happy Hour starts at 5. Enjoy food and drinks from the Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe, Sip Downtown Brasserie, and Summit Beer Station. Mark your calendar for Friday, August 2nd, when 9th Street is Dead, featuring John Ingram's Dead Center and the music of the Grateful Dead. The Thundering Herd Rally is Friday, August 16th. 9th Street Live is driven by Yes Chevy, Yes Ford every Friday night through Labor Day. 9th Street in Huntington between 3rd and 4th Avenues. Sponsored by Delta Hotels, Marshall OBGYN, Wendy's, Mountain Mindful, City of Huntington, Marshall University, Impact Media, Xfinity High-Speed Internet, One Way Septic and Rent-A-Can, and Kendrick Communications.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to our Thursday edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Text line is open this hour, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We're trying to put together two lists. We've got you busy today. First of all, Marshall doesn't have a Ring of Honor, and the Cincinnati Bengals today announcing the next two inductees into its Ring of Honor, and that's Corey Dillon and that's Tim Crumry. Those guys need to be on any Ring of Honor that the Bengals have. So they're in now. They're going to get it. They're going to get inducted into that. So that led me to think, why have we yet got to the Marshall Ring of Honor for football? Why is that not happening yet? So I think that would be a great thing to start talking about again. We go through this exercise now and then, trying to put, the typical Mount Rushmore of Marshall athletics. Well, no, I've got a ring. I want to fill this ring up. And I've got a list of people who needs to be in the Ring of Honor. And my list might not jive with yours, but my first requirement was, if you were in the College Football Hall of Fame, you need to be on this Ring of Honor. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's like the golden ticket. You get inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame and not the Marshall Ring of Honor, we got problems. Or it could be coming. So I think the initial surge should be, let's get certain people inducted first, and we just have No ifs, ands, or buts. We're not questioning any of them. And of course, that would mean Randy Moss would be in the Ring of Honor because he's going to be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. As Kata Adams asked him, and he responded, why should he be excited? Or you do it backwards. Should he be excited? Well, I think with a Ring of Honor, you do an initial class, and then you induct the Hall of Famers, and you also start thinking about how do you nominate for this? How do you get in? And I don't want anyone just to get in. It's a different level. It's not greater than the Marshall Athletics Hall of Fame. It's different. But it should be a different standard. You don't want to put we like a lot of football players. They're not the best, but we like a lot of football players. I don't know if it's partly popularity or what. I would say there needs to be some serious thought about this. But again, let's be democratic about it and let's say the season ticket holders have some say in this. So in my Ring of Honor, Randy Moss gets in. Among the Marshall Hall of Famers, texter wrote in and just said John Wade should be in the Ring of Honor. Okay. That would be a good conversation to have. He's not getting in initially in my Ring of Honor. So once I get all the Hall of Famers in, then I start looking at quarterbacks. And we've already got our first quarterback and Michael Payton. So then I got to go with Chad Pennington. He's got to get in. Sometime down the line, Chad Pennington needs to be in a Marshall Ring of Honor. Come on, he's a Heisman Trophy finalist. He's the GOAT of GOATs of Marshall quarterbacks. He was part of that golden era of Marshall athletics. And so Chad Pennington's got to be on that Ring of Honor. And then I'm looking for one more quarterback, and that's, of course, Byron Leftwich. He's got to be on that list as well. He also had a tremendous career after Chad. He was the guy that came basically after Chad. And he did tremendous things with the Thundering Herd. Also a Heisman Trophy finalist, I believe. And there were bowl victories. The guy was carried down the field on a bum leg and still played football. Come on. He's in the Ring of Honor. So these are the no-brainers. I'm picking off the low-hanging fruit here today. 304-396-TALK is our text line to be a part of this dialogue. Okay, who else gets in? Well, Chris Parker was on my initial list. So a texter wrote in earlier and said Chris Parker. Yep, he's on my list, my initial list. Also on my initial list was Ahmed Bradshaw. He's got to be in there. I would definitely say that his body of work would justify him being included in a Ring of Honor. Parker's in first, then Bradshaw. Of course, earlier on social, I was told that, look, Devin Johnson's got to be the guy. He's the greatest running back that Marshall's ever had. That was said to me on social. Some of you might agree with that. Others, maybe not. But he could be in the conversation for the Ring of Honor. But before any other running back gets in, the Hall of Famer gets in, and then I think Ahmed Bradshaw gets in. What about a guy like Vinnie Curry? He is a no-brainer for a Ring of Honor. Absolutely. What he's done for Marshall on the field, off the field, Conference USA Defensive Player of the Year. Of course, he gives back to the university. I don't think that necessarily gives you a golden ticket, but it's just part of his character. Vinnie Curry gets in the Ring of Honor if I was putting this thing together. So I've got a couple other names. And then I think we're going to have to open this up a little bit. I want to get more because my initial list, I also included a guy like Carl Lee. Carl Lee had a tremendous impact on Marshall athletics. You know, he's definitely known for what he could do defensively. He was an all-Southern Conference selection. And I think you start talking about more and more Marshall football players gaining notoriety for what they were able to do. I think you got to have Carl Lee in that conversation. So at some point, Carl Lee's got to go into the Ring of Honor. And then you have to, I think, put a guy like Doug Legursky in there. NFL career alone, probably would qualify him. But, I'm just looking at what they did at Marshall. And I think Doug Legursky probably gets some of those initial nods. And I think that's a pretty good start. There could be more. Now, this Ring of Honor, not necessarily just open to you played. If you played at Marshall or if you were in some other role at Marshall, you could have a strong conversation about if you deserve to be there or not. So, first of all, Ring of Honor, we have Jim Donnan, Hall of Famer. He gets in first. That might not be the popular idea for a lot of people because we love Bob Pruitt. I love Bob Pruitt. We all love him. Bob's getting in. There's no question. Bob's getting in. But again, this is a technicality. Bob Pruitt should probably be in the College Football Hall of Fame. But since we have numeric technicalities here, Bob is denied that opportunity. Bob Pruitt's on my Ring of Honor. One of the all-time greats. Took Marshall to some unparalleled success in the 90s. Him along with Jim Donnan. Jim bringing Marshall its first ever 1AA national championship, was very competitive for the years he was here. And then Bob Pruitt comes in, continues that run, takes Marshall to the next level. Bob Pruitt, as far as a coach is concerned, gets in my Ring of Honor. And there are two others that I would acknowledge from the coaching ranks. And that's Jack Lingle. Because without Jack, I don't know where this thing goes. And then if I'm going to put Jack in, I'm going to have to make room for Red as well. Because those two deserve the recognition for what they did after the plane crash. They're important figures. I would find, I don't know if I would put them in together just to honor them together, but I would put Lingle in, I would put Red in. Those would be my guys. And then one more. I mean, he's already got an arena named after him, but I would just make sure Cam Henderson probably goes on the ring somewhere. So those would be my coaches. And then I'm going to go dig back a ways a little bit as far as broadcasters are concerned. And again, this is going to be a small list. Eventually, Steve Cotton's on the Ring of Honor when he decides he's no longer doing this. But Gene Morehouse gets in first. I think if Gene Morehouse gets in, as far as broadcasters are concerned, I would love to see Sonny Randall up there. I'm not putting him in for what he did win and loss wise, but what he meant to Marshall afterwards, I think he would get in. Maybe you put him in as a coach broadcaster. See, I would put him in as a broadcaster, but with a wink and a nod, acknowledgement to football as a coach. And then I would put Steve Cotton in. I would have certain categories. So I would acknowledge Gene Morehouse. I would acknowledge Sonny Randall. I would acknowledge Steve Cotton in my Ring of Honor. And these would be, I think, if I got most of these guys in before we open this up to others to kind of help with that selection process, I would be good if I was organizing this. Texter writes in and agrees with me. Carl Lee, Vinnie Curry, Billy Lyon. Billy Lyon could be a strong candidate for Ring of Honor. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. All right. I like this one. I would have a special Hall of Fame for Stan Hill, but he gets an honorable mention. Texture says he gets an honorable mention. solely for how legendary he beat Little Miami in 2002. That definitely, I think, deserves a special acknowledgement, maybe a nice plaque, because that is a special moment in Herd Athletics. And, of course, Texter writes in and says, hey, don't forget about Reggie Oliver. No, I don't think you can, and you shouldn't. So Reggie might actually probably get up there a little higher. Because my idea is you get a good initial no-brainer they have to be in, and I think that's the Hall of Famers. You can do this over a 2 or 3 year period, maybe induct 2 or 3 at a time, and then you do maybe 2 a year. It might be a slow process, but it's a Ring of Honor, and it should mean something. Reggie Oliver is definitely a good name to consider. We'll keep this going, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Who do you think should be in this Marshall Ring of Honor? Did I get the list right? Did I overlook someone? Is there someone you would delete from this? And, of course, we're also starting to put together our greatest athletes of the 21st century. I've already got some people saying, look, don't forget Morgan Zirkle, don't forget Abby Harrington. I think those are good additions. We've got 100 spots to play with here. So Coach Z will make sure we try to find a place for her. You know, is she among the 100 greatest athletes of the 21st century? Is Abby Herring among the greatest 100 athletes of the 21st century? Does she make the list? Who doesn't make the list? Who's on the outside looking in? We've got a lot to debate there. That's going to live on a little bit longer. But for today, we're kind of focusing on both, specifically with this Ring of Honor. Your text coming up. Final segment as well on today's edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Here's a Kinder Communications Community Chatter, the annual Marshall Quarterback Club Reverse Raffle taking place 5:30 p.m. August 17th at Marshall Health Network Arena. Super Bowl champions Ahmad Bradshaw and Mario Harvey will be on hand for the event. Cost for the event is $200 per person. Patrons must be 21 or over to attend. To get tickets and other details, contact Taylor Hickman at Hickman46 at marshall.edu.
This Kinder Communications Community Chatter brought to you by Kentucky Farmers Bank, the Better Bank in Summit, Ashland, Catlettsburg, and Louisa. Online at kfb.bank.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Thoroughbred Express Car Wash. Sign up today and your first month of any membership plan is just $10. Any single wash or membership includes Howard vacuums, Rhino Mat cleaner spray, microfiber towels, bay trash cans, and even air purge gun tools. Follow us online at thoroughbredexpress.com, Facebook, and Instagram for all updates, news, and promos. Thoroughbred Express Car Wash, where every wash is an adventure and every day is a shining opportunity. Check out our locations at Howgrill Boulevard, Route 60, Hurricane, Hayes Valley, Cross Lanes, Charleston, South Point, Ashland, and Maysville.
Okay, if you're sleeping on the hot summer styles and great prices at Kohl's, you're missing out. I just shopped there and scored stylish shirts for my husband, along with some cute crochet dresses for myself. Plus, I saved 30% with my Kohl's card. But even if you don't have one, you can still save an extra 20% on some other great finds and earn Kohl's cash. So what are you waiting for? Take your summer style from hot to sizzling and get to Kohl's. Select styles, 20% off GPO, valid through July 21st. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to our Thursday edition. The Drive continues on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Texter writes in, says, do you think Rick Huckabee makes the list? I don't think so. As far as a Ring of Honor for football, for basketball, I would seriously consider having that as far as a coaches section is concerned. And again, I think there should be some boundaries, some rules we create. First of all, I'm going to stick with if you make the College Football Hall of Fame, you are instantly in. That's got to be. It has to happen. And so if you make the college, if you're not on the Ring of Honor just yet, and then you get inducted to the College Football Hall of Fame, you're in. You bypass the list, you bypass everything, you're in. It's just an automatic. It comes with it. And so I know it's different for pro because you got to be retired and you have to go through it. But I think it's a good formula to go with College Football Hall of Fame. And then I think you need to start looking at a criteria. Because, again, we could vote for a lot of people on this Ring of Honor, and that's cool. There should be a lot of interest in this, but I think we need to make sure. So, for example, does Willie Merrick get into the Hall of Fame? I mean, that's one of the greatest moments of all time. Does Merrick get into the Ring of Honor? I don't think so. So, I think what we do is we look at, as far as this Ring of Honor is concerned, we look at College Football Hall of Fame. We look at major awards, not necessarily did you win. Like, say, for example, if you're nominated for the Heisman, if you're a Heisman finalist, so that would include a few players. If you won a major college award, I think that's going to put you high on the list. And you got to have some certain qualifications here. So we can't just open this up to everyone. And then I think we're going to have some sort of split. We have the fans have a good percentage of this. And then, yes, members of the media. I think we get a say in this as well. Two different perspectives. And I think we need to have like a list of here's the top 25, top 50 guys. And this would be different from our greatest athletes of the 21st century from Marshall University. I think that would be an interesting debate to have. We will have this debate tomorrow as well, because I want to expand on this. Who are the greatest athletes of the 21st century for Marshall University and this Ring of Honor thing? I think we're going to play with this for a while. For our producer, Ben Anderson, I'm Paul Swann. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back with you tomorrow here on ESPN 94.1.
Retransmitting on Glorious FM on 94.1 W227BS Huntington. This is 930 WRVC Huntington, celebrating 100 years of broadcasting.